After 2 back-to-back championships and the treble last season, this past campaign for our A-League men's side certainly feels like a disappointment. But there were plenty of positives from this campaign that we have to take from it, and hopefully we can build for a more successful season next year. Hey guys, my name's Lucky, this is Coast Watch Football, and in today's video we are going to do a deep dive into this past season for the Mariners. Look at maybe where it went wrong, highlight some players who did impress from this past campaign as well, and of course we'd love to hear from you guys as well. What were your overall feelings and emotions from this past campaign? Where did it go wrong for the Mariners? What were the positives that you are taking out of this campaign? After 26 games, just 5 wins, 11 draws and 10 losses, we scored 29 goals in 26 matches, conceding 51 goals across those matches as well. 26 points. It's certainly not what I think we expected. Obviously, I think we expected maybe the level to drop a little bit, obviously just considering that we lost so many quality players. When we look at the players who even just left last season, over the last couple of years, we've had so many big name departures, but last season, losing Josh Nisbet, Max Ballard, Danny Vukovic to retirement, Jacob Farrell, the list goes on, Dan Hall. There's so many players that we lost, and it was always going to be tricky to rebuild for the next season. I mean, it was spectacular the way that we did win, not just the championship last season, but the treble after we had lost so many players the season prior to that as well. But it was always going to be tricky, and I think for Mark Jackson, this was a real testing season for his side. And obviously, I think a big factor that we do have to highlight that maybe we do forget, because a lot of these injuries happened early on in the season, but those injuries I think seriously affected this season because we lost some key players to injury. Miguel DiPizio, who we shouldn't forget scored in the A-League Men's Grand Final last season. He was injured for the first few months of the campaign, didn't come into the season till late on. Of course, Brad Tapp is a huge one as well. And he started the season really brightly. He actually had a couple really decent games early on the campaign before he got injured early on in the A-League season. There was a couple games there where he was playing in defense as well as a centre-back, and he looked like that maybe he could have been a first-choice centre-back going forward, Brad Tapp there. So I think that injury certainly affected us as well. And just throughout the season, little injuries popping up here and there. McCalmont missed a few games. We, of course, had Ryan Edmondson in and out of the team as well. We just really struggled for consistency in terms of the lineup. Lucas Moragas was out for a few weeks also. So that certainly affected things. There were often, a lot of weeks we did see the lineup chopping and changing. I think Mark Jackson really struggled to find some consistency in his lineup, and that was basically out of his control due to all of those injuries. So I think, just to say straight off the bat, that has to be taken into consideration when considering how we went this season. Having said that, I think even with the team that we did have, we did underperform this season. The disappointing stats to look at are, obviously the 5 wins. And not only did we only pick up 5 wins, but really struggling to win games and score goals at home, which was the disappointing thing. Over the last couple of years, we've been so strong at home. And for whatever reason, that just completely fell apart this season. There were a few games, even towards the last few months of the season, where I was like, okay, we had maybe Wanderers, Western United at home, Perth Glory, Brisbane Roar. I was viewing all these games as potentially winnable games for the Mariners, and we just really crumbled in a lot of those games at home, which is very uncharacteristic for the Mariners. And that's, I think, if we're going to turn one thing around next season, that has to be an absolute priority for Mark Jackson and his staff, is to put in stronger performances at home. I mean, even some of the games that we lost there against Adelaide, against Auckland FC earlier on the season, conceding 4 goals at home early on in the campaign, losing 3-0 to Wellington Phoenix. Heavy defeats at home, which we're just not used to seeing in recent times, at least for the Central Coast Mariners. The other disappointing thing was just 29 goals scored across 26 games. That was the 3rd lowest in the competition. Only Glory and Phoenix managed less goals. Even Brisbane Roar scored more goals than us this season, and they had a pretty poor campaign by their standards. So that's an area that I think obviously we have to improve on. I think that is an area of the pitch that surely we need to look to bring in someone new. I like Alu Kowal, I like Ryan Edmondson, I like what they bring, but it just feels like they need maybe someone else up there to partner them, maybe a different kind of player to partner them in a forward position. We think back, we've had some great strike partnerships over the years. Obviously last season it was basically Alu Kowal and Josh Nisbet working together, but I remember back to Marcos Arena alongside Matt Simon. Hopefully we can find a really exciting strike partnership for this season, but that's where we really struggled. Unfortunately, Ali Kowal just really struggled for goals this season, unfortunately. We know he is capable of goals, but he just wasn't able to find any rhythm this season, unfortunately. We should touch on the other tournaments we featured in this past season, of course, going all the way back to August last year, featuring in the Australia Cup 2024. We crashed out in the round of 32 to NPL Victoria side Heidelberg United 3-1. That was a really disappointing way to start the season, but obviously so early on in the campaign. And of course, fast forwarding all the way to our most recent match, losing our Australia Cup playoff match to Perth Glory. For whatever reason, we just have terrible form in the Australia Cup. Yes, we did make the final back in 2021, but since then, it's been really tough going for the Mariners. And of course, as we know, the Asian Champions League Elite was a really disappointing campaign in the end for the Mariners. But considering the squad that we had, the injuries that we had, and playing, some really youthful teams in those games, it was great experience for those young players, and they are going to continue to develop after what was a huge campaign for so many of these youngsters. But when you look at the quality that we were coming up against, we just didn't really have the team to make it happen. It is fun to think about how we would have performed in the Asian Champions League Elite, hypothetically, if we had our team from last season with the likes of Max Ballard, Josh Nisbet, Jacob Farrell in there as well. I reckon we could have maybe progressed into the knockout phase, but it was always going to be a tough campaign with such a young squad. Having a look at the early part of our A-League men's season here, we started off the season with 3 consecutive draws, finally getting our first victory. That was in Unite round against Newcastle Jets. And it felt like at that point, we'd turned things around. Obviously, we had sustained a few losses there in the Asian Champions League Elite, which was not helping the team's confidence a lot, I think. A win at home to Sydney FC was good, and it looked like from there we would build into, a pretty decent season, but that's when the inconsistency and the poor results started to come. These 2 results, I think, really affected the side, losing 4-0 at home to Adelaide United and then 4-1 to Auckland FC. Obviously, 2 of the stronger teams this past campaign, but again, that's what we're talking about. We do not want to see results like that, score lines like that, especially at home. In January, it looked like our fortunes might be turning around. Away wins to Brisbane Roar and Western Sydney Wanderers, while draws away to Wellington Phoenix and Western United. But entering February, our poor form continued there. You might remember we were leading Newcastle Jets 2-0 in that F3 derby, ended up conceding 2 goals late on in that game to draw 2-2, drawing away to Perth Glory, and then a string of losses here. 5 consecutive losses in all competitions wasn't good to see at all. A long time for our next win here, that 3-1 win at home to Perth Glory. That was on March 30th. And obviously some hugely disappointing results to finish off the campaign. That unacceptable results in the F3 derby away, drawing to Macarthur before losing to Brisbane Roar and Perth Glory. As we knew for the last month or so of the season that we were out of finals contention. I was hoping that with the team playing for pride, playing for next season, that we would have picked up some wins. But again, just the way we fizzled out this season was really disappointing to see. Let's have a look at some of the top stats from this past season. Our top scorer in the A-League men's campaign was Ali Kowal. He grabbed 4 goals this season. The top assists, Mikael Docker with 7 assists. All up, Mikael Docker had 10 combined goals and assists. And according to FotMob, Mikael Docker was the Mariners' top-rated player. He was up there with a 7.26 rating, according to FotMob. The other players up there, Alfie McCalmont had a 6.96 rating, while Lucas Moragas 6.84. I'm picking out my A-League men's player of the season. I think it does have to be Mikael Docker. He led this team to victory on a couple occasions, and even despite some of our losses, he was still putting in really, really solid performances and really showed his versatility this season. He played almost every position on the pitch this season, whether it was out wide in a winger position, at right fullback, at left fullback, a wing-back position. Even at times, I think he played as one of our 2 forward players as well. So Mikael Docker, he's such a top player, and he can fit in any position. I think at times he seemed a bit frustrated this season, that would just obviously just with how the team was going, but still a top player, Mikael Docker. But as mentioned, there were some positives to come out of this disappointing season for the Central Coast Mariners, and I think those positives are the breakout seasons of the likes of Arthur DeLima and especially Hayne Eames as well. Dylan Perech-Cullen, made himself the Mariners' first choice goalkeeper this season, which not many people expected heading into this campaign. An 18-year-old goalkeeper being given the opportunity here. And of course, at the Mariners, that is what we're known for, giving these young players the opportunity. And Dylan Perech-Cullen, obviously some shaky moments here and there, but overall, I think he had a really, really strong campaign considering how young he was. It was his first senior season for the Mariners, and he's just going to get better and better over time. Bailey Brantman as well. Nathan Paul, another season at the Mariners for him as well. These players are just going to get stronger and stronger after this season. Again, so much valuable experience coming from the Asian Champions League Elite. And yes, some tough matches in the A-League, But these young players can only get better. Again, we shouldn't forget, even the likes of, for example, Hay Names coming into this season are just 16 years of age. I mean, an exceptional season from him, considering his age, matching it with some of the top players in the competition in midfield. I'm really excited to see how a number of these young players continue to progress in our team. So look, while this season was certainly a disappointment for the Mariners, we do have to take the positives out of it and move on to next campaign. For me, I think we should still be placing our trust in Mark Jackson. He had an incredible season last year, winning the treble with the side in his first season in charge. I'm very curious to see what happens heading into this next season. Obviously, as we know, there's been a lot of speculation online, talk about what's happening with the ownership situation. Hopefully that gets sorted out. Hopefully we do all see it resolved and Mark Jackson can build his team for the next season. And if he is able to do that, we have to expect this side to be competing for finals once again. It's still pretty fresh, I think, in the minds of Mariners fans what happened after the 2013 A-League Men's Championship, where we had a decent season after that, but after that, a few years of really, really struggling. Those wooden spoons that we picked up in sort of the mid-2010s, they're really, it's not what we want to return to. So I think it is vital that our Mariners men's team here bounces back after what was a really disappointing season and we get back into that top 6 where we need to be as a club. Drop your thoughts on this past season in the comments section, join the conversation and hit the like button to support the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning into the video. My name's Lockie and I'll see you in the next one.